We welcome, on behalf of Chandigarh Lalit Kala Akademi, the Executive Committee of the Chandigarh Lalit Kala Akademi, and the people of Chandigarh, we welcome you all. I'll begin from this side. Dr. Rubina Karode, Mr. Atul Dodiya, Dr. Tasneem Mehta, Anju Dodiya, Bhavna Kakkar, Sadanand, Menon, Alka Pande. I'm calling her Alka Pande knowingly because she is a friend. I can take this liberty with her. I'm not calling her Dr. Alka Pande. Atul, as we all know, has been here, and he was kind enough to spare 5 days out of his life. He's always globe-trotting, doing things for the workshop which he did. And College of Art students, in fact, they were all the time, around him. He was taking classes under the tree, on the road, in the grass, in the, gallery, painting, talking, discussing, telling stories. He's a good storyteller. Thank you so much, Atul, for sparing your time for the second time. And I'm sure you'll do another workshop with us soon.
If Hussain was known by his paintings of horses, rolling shutters evoke the name of Atul Dodiya in the public imagination. Yet with an artist's characteristic love of liberty, he refuses to be fettered by any particular style, choosing instead to let cinema, politics, poetry, narrative art, history, and contemporary reality become the stimuli for his creative flights. Mumbai is often Atul Dodiya's muse, being his birthplace, with its famed Sir J.J. School of Art, his professional training ground in the early 80s. Interest in Western art and a scholarship drew him to Paris to imbibe European and American influences and to find his own expressive idiom. Over the years, he has participated in numerous group exhibitions, notably at the Mori Museum and the Japan Foundation Asia Center, Tokyo, the Tate Modern London, the Helsinki City Art Museum, the National Museum of Contemporary Art in Seoul, and in Vienna, Venice, Moscow, Italy, and Switzerland as well. Atul Dodiya has held scores of solo shows in the country and abroad since 1989. His paintings depict Mahatma Gandhi, glass cabinet installations, and use of popular culture, which are strikingly innovative and reflect the expressions of his many selves. As he admits, there are risks involved, but the thrill of creation gives him the courage to experiment and explore new dimensions. He says, "If I've already done something, there's no point in repeating it." And so, he's constantly evolving, changing genres, sometimes simultaneously working on a heavy, noisy rolling shutter and doing a tender, delicate watercolor at the same time. The materials that Atul Dodiya uses are delightfully varied, ranging from pulp paper, gold leaf, carbon toner, watercolor, charcoal, screen printing ink, to synthetic hair and cotton shirts. Through his works, Atul Dodiya engages with both political and art history in a way that entwines global public memory with local personal experience. In engaging with the ambient expressive culture, his references range from the comic strip and the popular religious oleograph, through the advertising billboard and the movie poster, to his favorite paintings from the Indian, European, and American traditions. The boundaries between fine art and popular culture are deliberately dissolved in his richly hybrid, hyper-real artworks. We welcome you, sir.
First of all, thank you so much for being here today. I am really happy to be here again. 2 years back I was here, as Diwan Manna just mentioned, and really enjoyed the city, interacting with students, listening to their thoughts and ideas and problems. It was wonderful. So it's also a very special occasion actually this time, that no doubt some of the finest names from our art world today, they are speaking here, talking and sharing their thoughts, ideas. But the occasion, which is Amrita Sher-Gil National Art Week, that also makes us be very proud. One of my most favorite painter, and it's just great joy to be here. You know, my way of basically what I'm going to show is today is just work from 2012, just last year's work. And yeah, I was invited, I had to work, I enjoy working. 3 years back I moved to a bigger studio space, and I mean constantly work is happening. My main concern throughout, whether I'm in a studio or I'm not in a studio, is creativity. How to be creative, how to see things creatively, how to think in a new way, in a different way. So often, even while looking at other people's art in the gallery or in the museum, I also simultaneously work. I keep on thinking about my own process and what I liked it, and it doesn't mean that I miss what is there, which I grab it quickly, but that's the way I think that the remaining creative throughout, which is my prime concern. And freedom, I mean, what is artist? What artists do? I mean, it's when I go to my studio, in front of my blank canvas, no one is there, no one can dictate me, no one can say anything. It's totally my kingdom. I'm free there, like a king. You know, I can do what I want, what I don't want. But there is one huge, big problem over there as well. You know, there are lots of demons and villains and devils, invisible demons hovering in your space in the studio. And they can be in the form of your own past, your own creativity, your success, the recognition you got for certain kind of work, your friends, critiques, curators, gallery, and connoisseur. They're all there, invisibly there. And they sometimes start dictating that probably do it in this manner. So that one has to be, extremely aware and how to get rid of them. Let me tell you, filmmaker Govind Nihalani, some years back, he had made a film called Ardha Satya. It was a film about an honest police officer. This officer is very honest but very hot-tempered and could not accept any injustice in any way. And the story, of course, goes on, and there is a man, bad guy, villain, underworld don, who also is a kind of a politician, called Rama Shetty. Beautifully acted. I think it was the first film of Sadashiv Amrapurkar. And Om Puri was the police officer. And constant fight and struggle to get rid of this villain from the city, in the story. He could not do it because the Rama Shetty it was too big. Finally, in the last shot of the film, where he had to go to his den or wherever, in his adda, and he tells this police officer, this Rama Shetty, that Mr. Velankar, his name is Anant Velankar, the police officer. He says, Mr. Velankar, tum ek kaam karo. You be in police department as my man. And you work according to whatever I need, and then everything will be okay. He gets furious. He said, basically what you want is a dog at your door, And he just grabs his neck and he kills him. And he comes on his bullet to the police station, meets his officer, and he tells him, "Sir, मैंने रमा शेट्टी को मार दिया." And scene freezes and the title starts appearing. I have often killed many Rama Shettis. Really. I have really, it's painful, it's risky, it's courage, many things, but often there are temptations, often this, feeling of, कि अच्छा है, it's perfect, painting is looking good, just leave it there. But there is little bit of, this thing that what if I do this? What if I add this or if I do this, if that comes, I don't drop it, I do it. I said, okay, chalo, though then, I have seen this, it's complete, I have done this enough and I know it, how it looks, so why not? Let me change. At the most, I will lose the painting. But I do it. I just allow myself. And so, here quite dramatic shifts happens in my work. And sometimes I also worry about it. Is it the right thing? I mean, you see great masters, there's such a wonderful growth gradually, and much entered into the dense, deep knowledge, understanding about form, content, subject matter. And it's beautiful to watch an artist's life and all. Life, but here in my case, I noticed that today I do this and tomorrow I do totally something else. It's like taking somersault and go in totally another direction, then again you go in different directions. So is it how fair? So I question all these things. But I think 2 years back I was really nervous about this. And I said, this is probably I'm a just grand failure. I think it's not correct. So I must change. I should have one particular kind of a mode of expression and keep on working towards that. And then within that, I have a great technical ability, skill. And imagine if you just keep on doing certain kind of work, I can go far probably. But it didn't happen that way. It just happened that I had to sort of keep on doing the way I was doing. So in the year 2012, what I did, I will start with that. Yeah, I was invited for a show called Cinema City. It was a project by an organization based in Mumbai called Majlish. Few artists were there, and there were many other things which they were involved. Architect students were there, and theories and discussions and dialogues were happening. When I was asked to do something about, because they knew that cinema also I enjoy, and I often am influenced by cinematic stills or cinematic devices in my painting. So for what I did was, I had 14, the work was called 14 stations, and there were 14 stations on a, Bombay has two local railway line, Central Line and Western Line. I live on a Central Line. I was born and brought up in Bombay in the suburb of Ghatkopar, which is northeastern suburb. And so there is a city, you see the station sign, as well as there is a film star or basically a villain. I painted villains. I actually like villains a lot. I started with Rama Shetty, so it's nice to beginning to have a Pran, because Pran is one of the villains of Hindi film who is my most favorite villain and actor. So I said, Pran has to be in Ghatkopar, because that's where I live. So it's too obvious actually, I mean, cinema and city, it's such a vast subject. I mean, whole life can be given to that. It's that kind of a project. But I thought, let me just be simple. And sometimes, like when you get invitation, when you are invited with a theme-based shows and work, I think one should try to be truthful and do things, according to that. But I think sometimes artist takes liberty, and ultimately we do what we want to do. So I have painted earlier station signs, and I have painted villains also. So I said, this is the best opportunity. Let's have paintings they were quite large, 9 feet by 3.5 feet. Almost the actual, when the station ends and the side signs, it's exactly that size. And I did this, but I must tell you that you might probably see, and you will see in some other details as well, the surface is a cracked surface in the painting. In the inset, as if that's the main, in the newspaper you have sometimes main event photograph which would show event, and then someone's picture in inset comes in a corner. It's the similar kind of a device, I thought, and I realized in the process, I don't have the idea or full knowledge about what I'm going to do. I was only aware that station signs and villains, and in this manner, what kind of color, and in the process, I understand what I'm doing. It's not that I was fully aware when I started what I wanted to do. So that's how it moves. And I use the medium called crackle paste. It's a golden company, American company, which provides you, when you apply a thick paste, it gets, after drying, it gets cracked on its own. If it's a thin coat, it's a thin fissures, and if it's a very thick, you get a bigger one. And I realized in the process that this whole series was a kind of it was an elegy to the city. I mean, we love city, we like city, but the pace in the city, the living in the city, it's like, I've been telling every day, I said, wow, look at Chandigarh, look at the vastness, the roads, the broad roads and trees, and so quiet and clean, and roads are fine. Not like that in Bombay. So you always have a great love-hate relationship with the city. And I have the sequence in which, from Ghatkopar to Victoria Terminus, that is now Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, whatever station. So that's called CST now. And so Ghatkopar, Vidya Vihar, Kurla, Sayan, Matunga, Dadar, that's how it comes. And that's how I'm also showing you. And that's how it was displayed also. Vidya Vihar with villain Prem Chopra. And I painted the portraits of this villain as if they were like a kind of old tinted painted photographs. In early days, black and white photographs, then they were painted, hand painted. So that tonality I like, and I was looking at, like there are lots of pictures available of Pran or Prem Chopra or whoever, but which one? And I realized that in the process, when I chose these 14 faces, I realized that it is the eye and the look of these guys. That was something which was important to me. You can look at this here in Pran, Prem Chopra, Gulshan Grover. I'm sure most of you know all the villains, so don't have to say this is Amrish Puri and all that. K.N. Singh, earlier I had painted him something else, and then I came across a small piece by Khalid Mohammed. He was writing about villains, and he mentioned that K.N. Singh used to live in Matunga, and there used to be always, every evening, there was pakoras and drinks and parties. So Lalita Pawar and many other film stars used to go there and discuss and talk film and all that. So then I changed him to Matunga. So that is the only reason K.N. Singh is on Matunga. But otherwise there is no connection with any other villain to any stations. Of course, simultaneously I was interested in the abstraction, the way surface was rendered, the way tonalities was sort of created, and how much to keep a painting monochrome and all that, which are all painterly sort of interest and device. But if you notice there in the corner, it's a very specific form, which is actually an image by an American artist called Robert Motherwell. And Motherwell painted a series of paintings about elegy to Spanish Republic for the Civil War. Of course, the Guernica is the most famous by Picasso, being a Spaniard, and he did Guernica. But Motherwell did this series of paintings, which I love very much, and I often refer and quote directly Robert Motherwell's elegy to Spanish Republic paintings. I think this Shatrughan Sinha is from one of his early film by Gulzar called Mere Apne. Madan Puri. Rahman was a very different character in cinema, not obvious villain, but very cunning and dangerous businessman. So I thought it's nice to have Rahman with playing chess. Actually, I have no explanation for, if you see the red and blue thing, it's from Russian constructivist painter Malevich. Kazimir Malevich is one of the image, a small watercolor, and he did also small painting about it. But that abstraction on this kind of thing, but why? And what does it connect? Why Malevich? If you ask me, I really don't have answer. But I think, why? Because I think I'm full of Malevich and Mondrian and Motherwell and de Kooning and Rothko and Jones and Guston all the time. And living in Ghatkopar, carrying my books from home to studio to home, and in the lift, when I see my surrounding, my people, it's just my world. So there are two worlds in which I live. One is, of course, the city of Bombay, where I live, and family, neighbors, and all that, friends. And then there is another world, which is the art and artistic various explorations. So they just come there, and I feel instinctively that this should be here in this manner. So I just do it. Of course, the local station signs do have like red and blue like this, but not in Urdu. Earlier when you come towards the north in Agra or probably Delhi, you have in Devanagari, in English and in Urdu text, but not in Bombay. Because they want to have Marathi as well as Hindi. And Marathi and Hindi, is Devanagari is the same. So it's a double written in the same words. Shakti Kapoor. I know, when I was doing this, I only know Jeevan, and I know Sanders Road, and I know Motherwell, and I don't know how someone who doesn't know these things, how that person will perceive or see. But I think that's not my problem. My job is to work what I know. I can't create a work which should touch each and every person, and that's not possible, and one should not even attempt that. So in that sense, the universal and all those ideas are there. If you can do that, where you can reach each and every person, whether in Namibia or in Kyoto or in New York, it's fine, but I can't do that. Again, the Motherwell is here. So actually, basically between Ghatkopar and CST, the 13 stations. I added 14th one with my name. And of course, there is a Atul station. When you leave Mumbai and go towards Gujarat, it's a industrial small town, belongs to the Lalbhai groups and dye, chemical and big industry. Palermo. Actually, if you notice, there is a blue pole and the red circle. It's actually a work by German artist who died young in a very mysterious circumstances in somewhere in Sri Lanka called Blinky Palermo. And that his name was German name, but the Blinky Palermo name was given by another German great artist called Joseph Beuys to him. And because he said, you look like one of the mafias from Palermo in Italy. I was reading about the city of Palermo, the way the gangsters captured the city, and the way they, city meaning the land, and the builder lobby was so influential that it was they become extremely rich. And if you see the city of Bombay, it's again the land and the real estate and that the issues with that and the way builder lobby would work with politicians and all that, something like that also came. And somehow to break the thing, and since my own name is there and no male villain but the Bindu actress, and I thought to divide it in a certain way would probably distract from my name and the actress. Some installation view at the National Gallery of Modern Art, Mumbai. I was invited by a museum in Copenhagen to create, they were aware of my works on roller shutters, and they were very keen that I do some shutter works for a show about Indian art. There were some 13 Indian artists were invited, and I did some shutters, the same shutters which just opened recently in Cincinnati Contemporary Art Center. It went from Copenhagen to Cincinnati, where I added some watercolors as well. But after the villains and the station signs, the next body immediately which I did was this. This one is called Leopold. Leopold is the restaurant where just behind in Colaba area, just behind the Taj Hotel, where lots of foreigners often goes and have meal. Of course, our own people also are there. And that was the shop when the attack happened on 26/11 on the Taj, the terrorist attack. They also attacked this particular restaurant. So the menu card is there, and the image is of course from Francis Picardia's one of the well-known early work. And the meat pieces which you see on the top, they are from American artist Roy Lichtenstein. And when you open the shutter, it's interesting that normally we see the painting from top to bottom or the whole thing, but in shutter case it goes gradually up and you see the bottom part of the work first. And here is a poem by one of the most significant poet from our time, unfortunately is no more, Arun Kolatkar. Arun wrote in Marathi as well as in English. So this is one of his poems. It's because in Colaba area there are all these restaurants are there. Olympia, Baghdadi, Kailas Parvat, Gulshan, Iran, and Noor Mohammadi, Sarvi, Oriental, Benzir, Wayside Inn. And he sort of wrote a beautiful collection called Kala Ghoda poems. Kala Ghoda is the area where the Jahangir Art Gallery is located. So I just thought of having Arun's poem inside, some details. This one is called Tsunami. Again, Roy Lichtenstein image, and the brush stroke, which the drip comes all the way on the shutter. Whipping Woman from Picasso, it's in the bottom. Huge hammerhead shark and her head resting on each other. And one of the Motherwell image which I twisted and painted on the top left corner, which looks like as if it's a whirlpool or a tsunami. But tsunami for me, it was more about the tears. Woman, whipping woman and her tears. So more than the liquidy brush strokes, the huge hammerhead shark or the distorted Motherwell, it was the tears which Picasso painted of a woman that came, and I thought it would be nice to have a title, Tsunami. 2611, that's the title of this work. I mean, it's a well-known Edward Munch Scream, but of course I painted the lithograph, not the painting. Earlier I used to have shutters which were like operated by hand, and now I have with a remote, so they go quite smoothly up and down. Krishna swallowing forest fire. I am really keen, but I think I'll have to work very hard on that. The series of painting which I'm planning called Krishna swallowing forest fire and other stories from Bhagavad Puran, where he lifts Mount Govardhan, kills Aghasur, and there are many beautiful stories and beautiful paintings in miniatures we have. So whenever I see these beautiful miniatures of Krishna's saving people and all, so, and of course what I saw was the Taj Hotel burning on the TV screen 2-3 days. And can you imagine, I was not at home. That particular day we had gone to similar kind of a workshop to Aurangabad. And the first thing we had decided, okay, my friend Giv Patel and Sudhir Patwardhan, I said, oh, let's go and have a look at the Ajanta Ellora. So, there is this so much looking forward to Ajanta and Ellora caves, and parallel something is happening here in Bombay, in my own city. It was terrible. And I mean, of course, there is no Krishna who would swallow the fire. And I don't know, I feel hopelessness a lot sometimes, but I don't really believe in that. So I think maybe it's momentary, but this is called Farewell. Again, like file cover by Lichtenstein. I tell you the secret. You saw Knock Knock. You see composition by Lichtenstein. Now, the deadline for the Arken Museum show was so close. If I have a too realistic, too detailed work, it would have been very difficult. I could not have finished it. So I said, what to do now? So I should have some device that I can do it, work quickly. Otherwise, it's not possible in that kind of a short time. But while doing that, of course, it's not just that, okay, aapne, kar diya and it's gone. I have to have a solid, meaningful thing. Otherwise, no point. But I do play or work that way, that, of course, it took long to paint the pattern, the design in that specific way, but still it was not, it was comparatively fast. And when you open the shutter, you see the mother well, large black form, a female nude pointing. There is a sun or moon or some circle which has a, what you call the camouflaged, the military uniform pattern, and a poem. The poem is by Spanish poet Lorca, who was killed by military people. His body was buried very recently. I mean, just 2 years back, the British police department tried to dig the grave and nothing was found actually. And with deep research, nothing was found. So actually Lorca was killed and thrown where, and that's a real mystery. And this is the poem by Lorca. If I am dying, leave the balcony open. The child is eating an orange. From my balcony I see him. The reaper is reaping the barley. From my balcony I hear him. If I am dying, leave the balcony open. Dead ancestor, Gandhi examining Parchure Sastri. Two old men. Grace. This one is called Grace. Gandhiji tending a calf, and the 4 ashrams, Gandhiji's offices, Sabarmati, Wardha, and other structures. I just love Gandhiji's ashrams, they're beautiful. Such a simple structure, and I enjoy going there, looking at the species. The pole which you see is the endless column by well-known Romanian artist who lived in France called Brancusi. I mean, for me it stands as a pure beauty, pure abstract work with timelessness, and to do something with also, the spiritual aspect of mankind. And Gandhiji's goat is up. Flagellation. British soldier with a hunter and lashing the freedom fighter. And the scribe. The image of scribes keeps coming in my work in last 12 years, 13 years. When we saw the mosque, Babri was demolished, subsequent riots in the country, serial bomb blast in Bombay, Twin Towers were destroyed, and then we keep on seeing violence all the time, not just in India but everywhere, intolerance. And so I wonder that in the way in medieval period in Europe, when people were not able to read and write, the scribes would write and read for people, mostly religious text. And I wonder that how our time will be written in 500 years, or seen, 500 years, 1000 years. So, again, the red blocks are from Malevich. For me, they are like clouds, but fully red. Highway Yogi, Vishnu. Instead of lotus, there is a kind of thorny plant coming off. Brahma, the creator of the universe, which is supposed to be residing there, he is vanished like a brush mark dissolving of Liechtenstein, and a fruit-like skull on which one drip falls. After that, the another series which I did, which was about, it just happened that once I was returning from somewhere abroad, and I asked the air hostess about the magazines, and she gave me National Geographic. So I said, good. I was looking at it, and I came across a long article about the Timbuktu. I mean, generally we say, kahan se aaya Timbuktu, I mean, it's like as if a far away, fabled city, distant land, as if, that kind of a thing, and we joke about it, but Timbuktu is actually a place in Mali, in southwestern Africa. Of course, the Timbuktu is on the north of Mali, and there is so much love for scholarship, extremely poor, poorer than the third world countries, but there are scholars. They preserve these manuscripts. They teach young ones to preserve them, restore them, read them, and I just love that. And that's what I was telling yesterday, when we have such a fantastic, great collection in our own country, but how shabbily we keep, so you feel sad about. Anyway, so when I read that, I said, my God. And it was the whole story in the National Geographic was about the scribes of Timbuktu. I said, this is something. I just took that magazine in my bag. I came home. But one thing I must tell you, like I did all this in 1 year, and almost like every 3 months, 2 months I was working. But it's not that, okay, now today I'll start this. Most of the images, most of the works up till now what you saw, they are there in my head for almost 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, sometimes 10 years. And then at some point I feel strongly, and they just come, and I feel compulsion, I feel need. Okay, now it's it has to, I want to do this. So that's how it comes. So the scribes were always there, and when I came about the Timbuktu scribes, and now what has happened that because of the jihadists, they have captured the Mali, the capital, and the Timbuktu is in such a bad state that they destroyed the old, monuments. They burned majority of manuscripts, and all over the city there are black flags, and women cannot walk alone on the street. They just come and shoot. You can't smoke on the street. They don't like it. Don't listen to radio. They don't like it. So this Taliban, the new Taliban from on that side, has created havoc. I mean, really, of course, I am in Bombay, in Ghatkopar doing my things, and but I was very, very sad. And the series of paintings I did for my first solo in Paris at the Templon Gallery called Scribes from Timbuktu. And they were large, 8 feet by 5 feet, 8 feet by 5.5 feet. Again, I had used the crackle paste also here. Of course, the bird is from Rabindranath Tagore. This one is not a title, Scribes of Timbuktu, but it's called Eclipse. Some details. Cargo. The sailboat carrying twin towers. The sun, setting sun, totally cracked. Just we saw the text which is written in French says that I am alone, but nobody believes me. And of course, Jean-Claude Rouet, a French contemporary poet, most of the texts are from him. because not I was showing in Paris, I wrote in French, because the official language, like also the way we have English, French is the official language in Mali. You can see the cracks. Circle recovered. Its plate is from Iran, 12th century Iran, and it says that it's a kind of a bowl where family together eat and put food, and it says those who are eating from this plate, the good thing will happen to them always, and not just to them, but those who are near and dear or around, there will be, sabka bhala, that kind of thing. So beautiful. The scribe. Midnight in Mali. And again here the text on the top. The capital is about to topple. The marble falters. Prayer. We no longer know how to pray. I listen to my neighbor. The scribe on the carpet. Crowded circle. Of course, these are details from the same painting. Then I added some watercolors in the series, Scribes from Timbuktu. This one is called Angry Scribe. Black parchment. They are all imperial size, that is 30 inch by 22 inch. Blank sheet. I enjoy watercolor mainly during, in the month of mid-June to end September, when we have a heavy monsoon in Mumbai. The weather is quite wet and damp. My studio is quite damp, and paper are quite, wet. So water and the form and the way I want it behaves the way I want it. But of course, I learned the technique of watercolor by observing Anju for all these years. So I know, but she manages in any weather, any season, watercolor. But for me, if I paint in summer, the paper becomes like a papad. You can't really sort of very hard, and so I enjoy. And this was a time, the show was in September, and in July I was doing. So I really enjoyed these watercolors. Falling scroll. Frozen scribe. Sand dune. After that, the series which I did was, it was a commission work. The museum in Australia, in Brisbane, they invited me to create a work which they acquired it. So they commissioned, and they said that we should, would like you to respond that the Asia Pacific Triennale, this was the 7th this year, and this is the 20th year of our Triennale, and various other shows which we have done. Why don't you respond to that and create your own work of art out of it? So I said, well, it's too big a task, and I would love to do that. I often have an approach of a sort of archivist or a curator within me for a certain free, totally my own response to the way I see things and all that. So I said, I won't go in a too literal way, but I think it will be pure painterly, pure artistic response. They agreed. I said, fine. So then they sent me piles of catalogs, books, images, etc. I said, but I need to see the space as well. So I went to Queensland Art Gallery, which I had been in 2004, but now they have a new museum called Goma. That's a gallery of modern art, beautiful space. So I went, saw, discussed few things, and finally what I did is, it was a 45 feet wide, 9 wooden cabinets with paintings, sculptures, photographs, found objects were inside. And it was a response to the show. I told them, I am not just going to respond to your only APTs, but the other shows which you all did. Like they had a big surrealism show, they had a show about Picasso's collection, they had a big, when I went recently, it was a Matisse drawing show was on. So I said, I am going to respond to everything. And it was the biggest challenge, because what happened that the Asia Pacific Triennales, when I saw their catalogs and the artists whom they have shown all these years, not necessarily I was responding to their work. You know, when I saw that, it was a tough thing. Then, but it got, I finally fine-tuned the whole thing, and this is the way ultimately thing. I will be showing quite a few details of inside, so how you know what exactly. Like this is the full one cabinet. There's André Breton. The only odd man out in the whole thing, which they had never done anything with, is Mahatma Gandhi, which I thought wanted to have him. And you will see some of the images from Guernica and fragments of Guernica details in thing. And I thought, whether we like it or we don't like, and I think that philosophy of love for fellow human beings and the idea of non-violence and all, I think we can't ignore it. We have to, intolerance, look at this, what's happening. Rushdie can't come, and Ashish Nandi has been asked about to clarify and all. Hussain, of course we know. These are the details. Of course, we come, we eat, we sleep. That's a painting which they have in their collection by our own artist, N.S. Harsha. He had a large triptych. So his, the title of his work is that, which I use. So I use this way, not literally taking images from Harsha or anywhere else, but that's Jacques Prévert, poet, drawn by Picasso. So this was from the first cabinet, which you saw the details, a Prévert poem. This is the second cabinet. Of course, the map photographs I took in when I was in Documenta last time. By Boetti, Alighiero Boetti, the Italian artist who used to go to Afghanistan to work with the local craftspeople. It's embroidered map, which of course I just took a picture, and since it's Australia and was showing in Australia, I had this picture on the top. Then there is a Brisbane River which runs in the city, and the museum is absolutely on the bank of the of the river. So the blue ribbon like thing which you see is actually aerial view of the river. Yeah, you can see here. And of course the response of my work to a one of the artists from Philippines. They had a retrospective of a filmmaker Kumar Sahni, and Kumar Sahni's very first film, which I like very much, called Maya Darpan, and the still is from Maya Darpan there. When I went to observe and discuss, I took some pictures in the museum. So throughout all the cabinets, you will see one man who is looking at the works of art within the museum in the same space. So viewer is also there. Watercolor. Aboriginal or indigenous artists whom I included, because they are very much part of their mainstream art section. So actually there are literal reference to almost whatever I used in this thing. I am not going to go in details about that, but just run through quickly the. It was a photograph by a New Zealand-based artist, but I just put the enameled eye on top of her face, make it more dramatic. Yeah, I mean, different objects, different things, different images, but when they come together and what kind of a new relationship or a new experience happens, that is my concern. And it's not arbitrary, it's not random. There is a very precise inner logic in which they come together. And when they don't come together, I struggle very hard. It doesn't happen. And you realize that this has not worked. Vara. Picasso's wife's drawing by André Derain, which I did, of course, as a small watercolor. Sandalwood. Again, river came first. The image which you see of three girls, it's from a very early film by Jean Renoir called River, which he shot in Calcutta, where Satyajit Ray was there for some time to take him around to show and observing him how Renoir worked. Matisse on the upper photograph. And then there is Rabindranath Tagore's drawing which I did. Because one of the project which Sri Lankan artists did, I think probably invited by Devi Foundation, about 1 year drawing project. Now I was not a part of it, but that project was shown in the last Asia Pacific Triennale. So I said if I would have been invited, this is my contribution to that project. And I thought of drawing Rabindranath's one of the face. There is a poem in Gujarati by one of the giants of contemporary Gujarati poetry, Sitanshu Yashash Chandra. And you see behind the donkey, there is an image by a Chinese artist called Song Dong. Song Dong did a work, it's a large photographs where he was taking the chap, the block print, hitting into the river. And it's in Tibet. And so it was about, his protest against the Chinese rule and all. So when I saw that it was hitting, this thing into the water, suddenly, in my mind, this poem came by Sitanshu. It's in Gujarati. It says, I just read 4 lines in Gujarati. It's nice to hear our own languages. Yesterday it was wonderful to listen to Mr. Goswami in Urdu and કે પાણીમાં ઘણ પછાડું છું ને વાગી ઉઠે છે ઝાલરો હવેલીની. એક ભવન એવું છે જેને શોધતા શોધતા નીકળી જવાય છે નગરની આરપાર. I won't read the full poem, but I tell you what it means. The English translation is like this. I hit a hammer head on in water. I hit a hammer head on in water, and the frill of bells of the Haveli begin to ring. There is one mention. The search for it takes one to faraway places across the city. And it continues. It's beautiful. So when I saw the Songdong image, I was reminded of this, that I'm hitting this hammer into the water. And I thought, let me paint. A friend translated it, Murphy. I could have written in English also, but I thought, no, it's good to remain it in Gujarati, in Brisbane. And it will create curiosity, what is the text is about and all that. Kitano, Japanese filmmaker whose films they have been showing. So you see Kitano on the top himself as an actor in his film. Museum magnets, painted images. This is the first time I painted inside the cabinet. You see the kangaroo. It was painted with a very heavy putty, the synthetic putty which we apply on the car body to cover the dent, then painted it. They had done a Man Ray show which we had seen in 2004. So I just opened the book and took the picture of that and placed it in the Murakami, the Japanese artist work they had shown. Some museum magnets which I collect and include in my painting. Max Ernst, Japanese print, Bosch, one of the details. IYY, the Chinese artist work which they had shown. I put my finger with a vote mark on it. Lots of techniques in terms of use of medium and material. They had a huge retrospective of more than 250 works of Andy Warhol. Of course, these magnets I simply found in the Copenhagen Museum, and I had not planned. And they had forgotten to send me the Warhol catalog, and I also had missed it. And it just happened that I got the magnets, and then one of the exchange of letters where they mentioned you must have about the catalog and our shows, all the and Warhol show. I said, oh, I never knew that you had an Andy Warhol show. And then they said, but now we have finished with the catalogs, and only one copy or something. I said, forget it, I don't need it. And I just did this shutter, small shutter within the cabinet. Same from the Boethi large map, one of the details. I thought it was beautiful to have. They had a Nasreen Mohammadi works, and so I thought it would be apt to have Nasreen and the map of India next to each other. They had early photographs of the sadhus, and I am very curious, like Anju said yesterday about the sadhus with their thing. But I unfortunately this time also I missed going to the Kumbh. But there are fakirs who for many years they don't cut their nails and they go like a creeper around their hand. It's quite, I'm very fascinated about it. And they had photographs in the museum in Brisbane about the fakir with long nails. But I had done the series in 2000. I again repainted one of the fakir here. This is the fakir. And here you see the photographs of fakir, not keeping hand for years and years. And of course the text is in not actually Persian, but anyway, it's from the film by Iranian filmmaker called Samira Makbalbaf called Blackboards. It's an amazing film. If you get the chance, you must see it. And the text says, Father, give me pomegranate. Father says, Beta, I don't have pomegranate. That's the text. This is the last cabinet from the series of 9 cabinets. They have a beautiful work by Nilima Sheikh in their collection. Of course, this picture I took it in China, somewhere near Kasgar. Ravindra Reddy sculpture is they have in their collection. And the 5th project which I did in 2012 is about the Kochi Mujris Biennale, where first time I was attempting photographs. Of course, it was interesting to listen to other day Dayanita and how serious photographer they work. But in my case, I take pictures like snapshots, like we all do. And I think that's so beautiful, just taking pictures. When you take a picture of someone, you are also respecting that person. The person is happy, you are happy. It's often, with friends and family. And, we go home after the trip, we keep it in an album. In early days, so, like we used to actually, in those corners, we would insert the photograph and keep it, see them. We still have at home my parents and their memories. So the memories and past and all that thing. And I feel that actually first time when I bought a camera, I thought I would do photography because I am a painter and I have a great visual sense. Why not? I would simply, I can do it. And soon I realized this is a very difficult medium. And I said, this is, I can do it. I realized difficult. But then those photographs become a sketch for my early work. The photorealism came from there. It was the first Nikon F2A I bought in 86. Anyway, but then in 2004, the first digital camera I got it. So most of the pictures are taken with the Sony Cybershot. And there were 231 photographs which I exhibited. And I thought it's the first ever Biennale. We should be proud of it. We should be happy about it. And let's celebrate. So and the space which I was given, many artists went and they were offered various spaces. This is the space, no one is taking this one. And that's the one I loved it. So I said, this is the best space and I like it. I'm going to do something here. And soon I realized that, okay, what if I show photographs? So I then went through the whole archive of photographs and I realized there are 8,000 photographs from 2004 onwards. And photograph meaning just a kind of a party picture, all those kind of things, nothing special. But I said the joy and the feel which that photographic image gives you, it's everyone's, everyone can do. Why not? You don't have to have because if you think of Raghu Rai and Raghuveer Singh, then you get scared. You say, no, Baba, you cannot do it. But I said, no, I don't want to look at that way. But what if I still do it and arrange them in a certain way? So it's more than actually photograph, it's more a photo installation. That's important. So basically it's an installation with photographs. And as you enter in my room, the very first on the right hand side there is a text, which is a photograph again, which I took in Venice Biennale by Yoko Ono. This text is by Yoko Ono. And since it was about people, all my people, contributors to art world and friends and things, some I shot, some I never shot, and some were there. And it was tough to sort of go through all those images. And finally, the text was here in that center image which you see. And as you enter, you see these things. There is Akbar, Raza, Tayyab, Ram Kumar, Krishan Khanna, Uccello, Donatello, masters from the West. There is and then while arranging and putting them, I did a lot of mischief also. There are few tongue-in-cheek, as in Marcel Duchamp's work, which I had photographed in Paris Museum, which also I put, and it says, with my tongue in my cheek. So those things were there. You will probably see it. So as you see, it's an abandoned laboratory. And I told them not to touch at all anything, just clean it. Remove the dust, that's it. And retain everything, every stroke, every, cracks, don't fill it up or anything. So they were all archival prints, and I framed them with a museum glass, so not to get reflected, to survive for a longer period. And 231 photograph cost me a bomb, really. But I thought if I'm invited in Venice or Documenta, then I should do it. But because it's in Kochi, I should not. I said, I'm sorry, I'm going to do it. I spoke to the organizers, and they said, well, lack of funds, these, that. I said, forget it, I'm going to do it anyway. Let me see. So I just, and from the space which I was given, like for example, here, that window which you see in the back, or the picture of Prajakta Potnis, which you see there, the sea, and next to it is a window, and this is the kind of view I had. Leonardo da Vinci. So what you saw just now was a kind of a left-hand side of the space, and now you are coming into the right-hand side. It was like a almost 80 feet wide by 40 feet long space with divided partition wall. That's Somnath Hor. And the basin which you see, which actually I took a picture in Ravindra Bhavan, in Ravindranath's house in Shantiniketan. Photograph is actually not allowed there, but I took that picture and then placed near this broken basin. There's Dayanita Singh. Raghura is there, yeah. Yeah, one of the image was also this one in that show. Again, Yoko Ono text which I photographed in Venice. I often take photographs of the museum guards in the museum. So these are in St. Petersburg, which were also part of the, this is actually a print I'm showing you, the image I'm showing you, but it was framed and it was shown. But these are there were kind of 7 guards, museum guards were put together. This is in Paris at Pompidou. And this you all should know, next door, Chandigarh Museum. And I was really happy to catch few more pictures of the gentleman yesterday. Nansuk. Yeah, so that's how they were placed. M.F. Hussain with his Ferrari in Dubai. This foreigner is American art critic for New York Times called Holland Cotter. Thank you.
Thank you, Atul. Thank you so much. You've seen appropriation, adopting, of visuals from various references, maybe cultural, maybe anthropological, maybe political, maybe social history, and what is happening in this world, and some kind of events. He's taken it all, and we've seen how the whole discourse has changed after Dushan's that shocking in 1902 or 3 kind of artwork which he displayed, and the realism, and now how the practice is changing, and the serious artists who can really paint realistic images in such a beautiful manner, but is taking other imagery and making his own, representing in its own different way. And we will discuss that after Dr. Alka Pande gives a presentation and Dr. Tasneem Mehta's, because then Dr. Alka Pande is going to moderate the session, which will be primarily referring to Atul Dodiya's presentation. Thank you, Atul. Thanks a lot.